It's often said that attention is the currency of influence. Machiavelli, however, would have informed you that it's a force far more perilous than gold. This is because while the average person dedicates their life to begging for a moment of focus, the genuinely powerful engage in a much more disturbing practice. They refuse to give it. That single act inverts the power dynamic with everyone in their orbit. The very second you stop offering people your attention, they begin to crave your presence. This isn't sorcery. Its influence is psychological, void that compels others to pursue what you have quietly withdrawn. Machiavelli recognized that attention isn't something to be given away freely. It is a resource to be traded with strategy. Every time you grant someone your focus, you are giving them a signal that they hold sway over your internal, emotional landscape. The moment they realize this, you become theirs. Consider this. Most people equate attention with a genuine connection. They pursue it, hunger for it, and would perish for it. They create content, provoke arguments, flirt, and perform all in an effort to be seen. But when an individual declines to participate in this game, a peculiar thing occurs. They become the gravitational center of any room they enter. Others can't help but speculate on their thoughts, their feelings, and why they remain so unaffected by what everyone else so desperately desires. The paradox is simple. Those who crave attention are ultimately ignored, while those who withhold it become impossible to resist. Machiavelli would tell you that granting attention is the most absolute form of surrender. Attention is a form of energy, and energy is what establishes hierarchy. The individual who gives attention is the one who kneels. The one who receives it is the one who stands tall. When you shower someone with compliments, argue to assert your correctness, or constantly defend your reputation, you are revealing to the world exactly where your emotional leash is fastened. You are effectively saying, "You hold power over my sense of peace." Machiavelli's counsel would be harsh, yet freeing. Sever that leash. He was convinced that a leader, or anyone aspiring to influence, must cultivate a presence that commands attention rather than demanding it. This begins with the art of restraint. If someone attempts to provoke you, meet them with silence. If they anticipate your reaction, make them wait. If they seek your approval, deny them. People remember an absence with far more clarity than a presence. When you speak less often, your every word carries greater weight. When you are seen less frequently, every appearance becomes a significant event. You transform into an enigma in a world that is addicted to constant noise. There is a deep-seated reason that silence feels like a form of punishment. Human beings can endure animosity, rejection, and even public shame, but it is indifference that drives them to madness. It triggers a primal fear of being unacknowledged, whispering, "Why am I not worthy of your notice?" Machiavelli masterfully exploited this vulnerability. He understood that when people begin to yearn for your attention, they will start to vie for it. They will attempt to appease you, align with your views, and advance your goals, all in an effort to reclaim what you have silently ceased to provide. He once noted that loyalty is not forged through cruelty, but through uncertainty. When your attention is unpredictable, people become hooked on the process of earning it. A single moment of your recognition feels like the first ray of sun after a week of storms. This fosters an emotional dependency that they fail to even recognize. This same principle is at play in romantic relationships, friendships, and professional settings. The coworker who never fishes for praise but delivers impeccable work becomes magnetic. The person who refrains from sending the first text becomes the one everyone anticipates hearing from. The leader who speaks with rarity but absolute decisiveness becomes legendary. Machiavelli knew that power does not always necessitate overt dominance. Sometimes its essence lies in emotional scarcity. Attention is akin to fire. When contained, it burns with intensity, but when scattered, it descends into chaos. Most people allow their focus to leak out constantly. They weigh in on every online debate, reply instantly to every message, and react to every slight. They believe this makes them appear engaged, but in reality, it renders them predictable. And predictability is the death of mystique. You cannot dictate how others perceive you, but you can absolutely control what they are permitted to see. This is where the artistry lies. Be deliberate with your reactions. Transform your silence into a weapon, not a sign of weakness. When you are publicly disrespected, do not engage in a battle for validation. Observe how their aggressive energy dissipates when it has nothing to feed on. When someone flirts to capture your attention, delay your acknowledgement until their curiosity ferments into obsession. When everyone else is clamoring to speak, pause just long enough that your words become an event in themselves. Machiavelli would say, presence is a stage performance, but attention is the script. The one who controls the script is the one who owns the scene. The audience does not admire the actor who pleads for applause. They admire the one who can stand perfectly still and make silence resonate more loudly than any monologue. That is the core of presence, to make others feel your significance even when you are not there, God. So, the next time you feel the urge to prove a point, to justify your worth, or to chase acknowledgement, stop. Remind yourself that the desire to be understood is a cleverly disguised trap. The world is not designed to understand you. It is designed to drain your energy. The moment you stop feeding it, you begin to starve the very system that has kept you contained. People will label you as cold, aloof, or arrogant. Allow them. Those labels are merely proof that they can sense your withdrawal, and they despise it because they cannot control what they cannot anticipate. It is ironic that when you cease to give away your attention, you are accused of being self-absorbed. In truth, most of those people only valued your attention because it served to validate their own existence. They do not miss you. They miss the flattering reflection of themselves that they saw in your focus. This is precisely why Machiavelli believed that attention must always be a tool of strategy, never a product of raw emotion. Every time you look at someone, speak to them, or even acknowledge them, you are making an investment. You must ask yourself, will this investment amplify my influence, or will it deplete it? In the realm of power, your greatest asset is selective blindness. Learn to pretend you do not see what fails to serve your objectives. Not every insult merits a response. Not every opportunity requires your involvement. Not every person is deserving of your emotional bandwidth. By withholding your attention, you preserve your energy. Over time, that preserved energy solidifies into an aura. People will begin to perceive that you are not as accessible as everyone else, that your attention is something that must be earned. Think of the individuals you truly admire. They seldom appear desperate for validation. Their composed detachment is what compels others to reach out to them. That is the very essence of control. Machiavelli would argue that true influence is not about commanding a crowd. It's about generating a gravitational pull, the kind that causes people to orbit you without you having to move an inch. And that gravity is born from stillness. When you refuse to react, you force others to react to you. Attention is not affection. It is leverage. The one who dictates where attention flows is the one who controls the environment. Politicians, influencers, lovers, and manipulators, they all operate on the same fundamental principle. The distinction between them and you is awareness. They are conscious of the fact that people will do almost anything to feel seen. You, however, must learn to do the opposite, to become so self-possessed that being unseen becomes your greatest source of strength. The less people know about what truly motivates you, the more they will wonder about what you are capable of achieving. And here lies the paradox that so few grasp. When you no longer yearn for attention, you begin to attract it effortlessly. This happens not because you are actively trying, but because indifference is the most uncommon and potent form of confidence. In a world saturated with noise, detachment is hypnotic. People are drawn to what they cannot easily define. They will project, speculate, and fantasize about your inner world. While they are occupied with this, you remain in complete control. Your power is found not in the volume of your existence, but in the silent weight of your presence. Machiavelli would have called this the art of strategic invisibility, the capacity to vanish from the emotional battlefield while still dictating its outcome. It's about letting others chase after shadows while you remain still, fully aware of the chaos you've created. The moment you master this, you cease to be a reactive pawn and begin to be revered, because those who require nothing from anyone are ultimately desired by everyone. Most people fail to grasp what it means to truly give attention. They see it as a benign act, simply listening, replying, or showing that you care. Machiavelli would have smirked at such a naive illusion. He was aware that attention is never a neutral act. It is always a transaction. Every glance, every word, and every ounce of curiosity you give away is a direct transfer of your power. When you give away too much, you don't just lose your focus, you lose your influence. People invariably interpret your constant attention as a form of emotional approval, and approval consistently diminishes your perceived value. This is why the people you treat with the most consideration often take you for granted. It's not because they are inherently bad people, but because it is human nature to adapt to abundance. When something is perpetually available, its value evaporates. The exact same principle applies to you. When you are always accessible, replying instantly, justifying your actions, reacting to every stimulus, you fade into the background noise. But when you vanish, when your attention becomes a scarce commodity, your silence begins to scream. People start to replay every interaction they've had with you, trying to pinpoint what has changed. They begin to crave the smallest signal from you, like an addict desperate for their next fix. Machiavelli would identify this as the psychology of deprivation. Humans do not desire what is readily available. They desire what has been withheld. The less you show, the more they are forced to imagine. And imagination is a far more powerful force than reality. The version of you they construct in their minds will always be grander, more profound, and more magnetic than who you actually are. The world falls in love with mystery, not with mundane honesty. So, when you withdraw your attention, you are giving people the space to project their own fantasies onto you. You become a blank canvas, a mirror reflecting their deepest longings. You can observe this dynamic everywhere. The quiet colleague who avoids office gossip earns more respect than the one who is always talking. The ex-partner who ceases all contact becomes infinitely more desirable than the one who is still trying to talk things out. The celebrity who retreats from the public eye becomes a legend, while the one who overshares becomes disposable. Power is not about having more. It's about needing less. Machiavelli's genius was in his understanding that restraint can be more commanding than dominance. However, withholding attention is not about being arrogant. It's about self-mastery. It is about refusing to allow your focus to be commandeered by individuals who have not earned the right to it. Machiavelli warned that leaders who attempted to please everyone ended up losing both their power and their respect. The same holds true in everyday life. The moment you start trying to be liked by everyone, you become owned by everyone. Your energy is scattered, and your purpose becomes diluted. But when you redirect your attention inward toward your ambitions, your discipline, and your inner peace, you begin to radiate something the world can feel, a detachment that commands interest. Detachment is not coldness, it is mastery. It is the ability to feel emotions deeply, but to display them selectively. It's when your emotions are in service to your vision, not the other way around. People can sense this level of control, and It draws them in because everyone is searching for someone who is not shaken by chaos, someone centered, composed, and unbothered. Machiavelli knew that composure is a form of intimidation. When everyone else is frantically seeking acknowledgement, the one who doesn't need it appears almost godlike in their calm. But here is the challenge. You cannot fake indifference. Pretending not to care while secretly obsessing over being noticed will expose you more quickly than any words ever could. True power is when you have the capacity to give attention, but make the conscious choice not to. It's when your silence is not forced, but strategic. When your absence isn't a form of avoidance, but a form of direction. You must train yourself to find comfort in being misunderstood, in being unseen, and even in being disliked. Because once you no longer need the world to understand you, you become unstoppable. Machiavelli would have advised you to observe people as a hunter observes their prey, not with malice, but with immense patience. Watch how quickly their insecurities surface once your attention is withdrawn. The most boisterous person in the room is frequently the most fragile. Their noise is a cloak for their dependency. When you stop feeding that need, their entire demeanor unravels. They will try harder, speak louder, and over-explain themselves. Every attempt to win back your focus only further exposes how completely they have lost their own. In intimate relationships, this principle becomes even more potent and more dangerous. The individual who understands how to withdraw attention at the precise right moment can dictate the emotional tempo of any connection. You do not argue when they try to bait you. You do not chase when they pull back. You simply allow silence to accomplish what words never could. Soon, they will begin to second-guess themselves. Did I say something wrong? Did I push too hard? They start to chase you for clarity while you remain perfectly composed. That imbalance of emotional energy is the very seed of influence. Machiavelli understood that people are predictable in their need for attention. They will sacrifice logic, dignity, and even love just for a moment of feeling seen. You do not have to manipulate them with cruelty. All that is required is that you understand their hunger better than they do. Once you know that every reaction you provide feeds their sense of importance, you begin to use your responses like a currency. Some people might earn a glance. A select few might get a conversation, but only the truly worthy will receive your undivided attention. That deliberate hierarchy creates value, and value creates reverence. The same applies to your digital existence. In the modern age, attention has morphed into a form of servitude. People scroll endlessly, react to everything, and give their mental real estate away for free. Machiavelli's wisdom would cut through that illusion like a razor. He would tell you to stop giving the world your focus without a clear intention, because every time you do, you weaken the fortress of your own mind. To truly distinguish yourself, you must become scarce, not only in your physical presence, but in your perceived thoughts. Let people guess your opinions. Let them wonder what you're thinking. Every unanswered question about you adds another layer to your mystique. The objective is not to become invisible, but to become unpredictable. Predictability is the antithesis of influence. When people cannot predict how you will react, they cannot manipulate your emotions. And when they cannot manipulate your emotions, they are forced to respect your boundaries. It is at that moment that power silently shifts from them to you. Machiavelli would tell you that unpredictability is the armor of the strong. You never reveal your full hand. You never show what is truly important to you. You allow others to expose their motivations first, while you remain composed, quietly observing as they reveal everything in their desperate attempt to earn your response. This does not mean you should detach from life itself. It means you must participate with precision. You choose what is worthy of your attention and what is not. You decide who is allowed to impact your emotional state. You cease being reactive and start being deliberate. In the end, your attention is your vote. It is how you decide who wins your time, your thoughts, and your tranquility. When you stop giving it away so carelessly, the world begins to recognize your true worth. People who once dismissed you will take note of your newfound distance. They will sense the shift in your energy, and it will haunt them. That is the quiet revolution that Machiavelli wanted leaders and thinkers to master. The art of making others crave your presence while you offer them none of it. It is a form of control that doesn't shout. It whispers. It is a power that doesn't beg for followers, but creates them organically. Because power, at its highest level, never has to announce itself. It simply exists, and everyone else is forced to adjust around it. Once you truly internalize this, every conversation you have will change. You will stop trying to fill every silence with words. You will stop explaining yourself to people who are not truly listening. You will stop rushing to prove your own value. Instead, you'll let your restraint do the talking. You will allow your calmness to inspire curiosity. And suddenly, the world around you will begin to slow down, orbiting your centered energy. That is what happens when you finally comprehend the true weight of your attention. It is not just something you give. It is something that defines who you are. The moment you begin to protect it, you cease to be ordinary. You become someone people remember, without ever knowing precisely why. Someone whose absence is felt more acutely than most people's presence. And that, Machiavelli would say, is the ultimate secret to making others crave what you no longer need to give. There's a particular kind of silence that makes people deeply uncomfortable, a kind that isn't empty, but is charged with potential. When you cease giving away your attention, this silence envelops you like a suit of armor. It's not that you are ignoring the world. It's that you are observing it without any sense of obligation. Machiavelli would say that this form of detachment is how power hides in plain sight. You become unpredictable, and unpredictability compels people to respect you, even if they don't understand you. In a world where everyone is screaming to be noticed, the one who has no need to be heard becomes the most resonant of all. When you stop reacting, you force others to confront themselves. Most people are not actually seeking your attention. They are attempting to flee from their own insecurities by seeking your validation. When you remove that escape route, they are left alone with the very discomfort they were running from. They begin to wonder what's wrong with them, what has changed, and why you are no longer providing what they once took for granted. That mental friction causes them to become even more attached to your image. You begin to occupy their thoughts, not through your presence, but through your absence. Machiavelli would call this the architecture of desire. It's the understanding that what people want most is not pleasure, but relief from the torture of uncertainty. The person who withholds attention becomes the very source of that uncertainty. They hold emotional power not because of something they do, but because of what they could do and choose not to. It is that maybe, that possibility, that keeps others trapped within your gravitational field. They crave your reaction, your approval, your acknowledgement. And when they fail to receive it, their imagination takes over. That imagination is your most powerful ally because it allows you to influence them without lifting a finger. But let's be perfectly clear. This is not about being manipulative for the sake of cruelty. It is about establishing balance. The world is filled with people who mistake kindness for weakness, who believe that if you show you care, you must always be available. Machiavelli's lesson cuts through this illusion with surgical precision. Kindness without firm boundaries is a form of self-sabotage. To be genuinely respected, your attention must be a privilege, not a default setting. It must carry weight, meaning, and consequence. Otherwise, you will drown in the noise of those who do not value it, not think about it. Every time you chase after someone's acknowledgement, you diminish yourself in their eyes. They might respond politely, they might even engage with you, but on a subconscious level, they know they have gained something that you have lost. The moment you need them to see you, they no longer have to. But when you don't seek it, When you move through the world as if your focus is already complete, without them something fundamental shifts. You begin to radiate a quiet self-sufficiency that people can feel before they can even articulate it. It's a form of confidence, but colder, calmer in energy that doesn't pursue, doesn't plead, and doesn't explain. It simply is. Machiavelli would say that is the tipping point where attention transforms from something you give into something you generate. Your aura begins to speak for you before you utter a single word. When that happens, you become a magnet. Not because you are actively pulling, but because you are standing still. Your stillness agitates people's restlessness. They wonder what you are thinking, what you might be hiding, and what you perceive that they do not. It makes them feel self-conscious in your presence. And that discomfort is a form of power. It means they have already positioned you above them in the emotional hierarchy. But this is where most people fail. They begin to enjoy the feeling of control and allow it to curdle into arrogance. They believe that withholding attention means acting superior. Machiavelli would have cautioned strongly against this, because arrogance shatters the illusion. When you look down on people, they see your own insecurity attempting to masquerade as strength. True mastery is much quieter. It doesn't announce its detachment. It embodies it. It's not about withholding attention to prove your worth. It's about doing it to preserve your energy. You don't play the game in order to win. You simply refuse to play, and that refusal fundamentally rewrites the rules. You will notice that after you practice this for a while, certain people will begin to disappear from your life. Those who only valued you for the attention you provided will fade away. Let them go. Their departure is confirmation that they never saw your intrinsic value. They only saw a reflection of themselves in your focus. But the ones who stay, those are the ones who see your presence as a gift, not as their right. Those are the people who can exist alongside your silence without succumbing to panic. Keep those few close, and your life will become quieter, sharper, and infinitely more powerful. Attention is a paradox. Give too little, and you risk seeming distant and irrelevant. Give too much, and you lose your competitive edge. The key lies in intentionality. Machiavelli's philosophy teaches that every gesture, every pause, and every acknowledgement must be in service of a purpose. Even your kindness has to be strategic. You smile when it strengthens your influence, not merely to appease others. You speak when it clarifies your position, not just to fill an uncomfortable silence. The goal is not to appear cold, but to appear measured. People respect precision because it is so rare. You see, the modern world glorifies overexposure. Everyone is showing everything, their opinions, their emotions, their entire lives. But the more people reveal, the less they are respected. Familiarity erodes fascination. Machiavelli understood that power needs mystery, just as fire needs oxygen. It dies without it. So when you stop giving away your attention, you are not being antisocial. You are protecting the very quality that makes you magnetic, your depth. The less people know about what you truly think, the more they will wonder what you are capable of. And that curiosity is a form of quiet submission. When people talk about you, let them speculate. When they test your resolve, let them fail to provoke a response. When they try to take your measure, make sure the scale breaks. Every time they fail to decode you, their respect for you grows. People do not admire what they can fully comprehend. They admire what remains just beyond their grasp. Machiavelli's trick was never about dominance through fear. It was about fascination through restraint. He knew that when you control your attention, you control the entire narrative. You might not notice the change at first, but it will happen subtly. There will be fewer arguments, fewer explanations, and fewer emotional drains on your energy. People will begin to approach you differently, more carefully, more intentionally. Your silence will start to do the work that your words once struggled to accomplish. You'll stop being invited into petty drama, because drama requires a reaction, and you have become reactionless. That is when you will realize what Machiavelli truly meant by presence. It is not about being seen. It is about being felt, and soon something else will happen. The very people who once ignored you will start trying to re-enter your world. They will sense that your absence has left a void they cannot fill. They will begin to test your boundaries once more, trying to provoke a spark of the old you. Do not give it to them. The moment you do, the entire illusion collapses. Maintain the discipline to keep your attention sacred. Let them crave what they once so carelessly wasted. That is not revenge. It is balance being restored. At its core, Machiavelli's lesson is simple but ruthless. Stop being so generous with what is most valuable. Your attention, your time, and your emotions are currencies that must be circulated with a clear purpose. When you stop handing them out like free samples, the world recalibrates around you. You will notice fewer people demanding your energy and more people offering you theirs. The balance of power will flip quietly, invisibly, until one day you will look around and realize that you are no longer chasing anything. Instead, they are chasing you. And that is when you will finally understand the essence of his trick. You make people crave your presence by demonstrating that you no longer need theirs. Because the most irresistible person in any room is not the one who is adored by all.